Hey people, it's Niles talking. Now today is the Watts Rebellion anniversary, so I'm going to cover this. This is the Watts Rebellion, and this is from History.com. The Watts Rebellion, also known as the Watts Riots, was a large series of riots that broke out August 11th, 1965 in the predominantly black neighborhood of Watts in Los Angeles. The Watts Rebellion lasted for 6 days, resulting in 34 deaths, 1,032 injuries, and 4,000 arrests, involving 34,000 people and ending in the destruction of 1,000 buildings, totaling $40 million in damages. Watts, California. It was a low-key traffic stop around 7 p.m. on a Wednesday evening that ignited what became known as the Watts Rebellion. Stepbrothers Marquette and Ronald Fry were pulled over by a white California Highway Patrol officer while driving their mother's car near the corner of Avalon Boulevard and 116th Street in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles. Marquette failed a sobriety test and panicked as he was arrested. As Marquette's anger rose at the thought of going to jail, a scuffle broke out between him and one of the police officers. Ronald joined in, partly to protest the arrest but also to protect his brother. A crowd began to gather and backup police arrived on the assumption that the crowd was hostile, which resulted in a fight between someone in the crowd and an officer. Another newly arrived officer jabbed Ronald in the stomach with his riot baton and then moved to intervene in the fight between Marquette and that officer. Marquette was knocked down by the riot baton, handcuffed and taken to the police car. The Fry brothers' mother, Rena, showed up to the scene and, believing police were abusing Marquette, rushed to pull the officers off him, resulting in another fight. Reno was arrested and forced into the car, followed by Ronald, who was handcuffed and after attempting to intervene peacefully in his stepmother's arrest. As the crowd got angry about the scene they had witnessed, more highway patrol officers arrived and used batons and shotguns to keep the crowd back from the police car. Hundreds more people flocked to the scene to investigate the silence there. As two motorcycles police attempted to leave, one was spat on. The police stopped to pursue the woman who they believed did it. The crowd converged around them, sending several other officers into the crowd to assist them. More police cars were called to the scene. The two police found Joyce Ann Gaines and to arrest her for spitting at them. She resisted and was dragged out of the crowd, which, believing she was pregnant, became even angrier. By 7:45, the riot was in full force, with rocks, bottles, and more being thrown at the buses and cars that had been stalled in traffic because of the escalating incident. The night after the arrest, crowds attacked motorists with rocks and bricks and pulled white drivers out of their cars and beat them. The following morning, there was a community meeting held by Watts leaders, including representatives from churches, local government, and the NAACP, with police in attendance, designed to bring calm to the situation. Rena also attended, imploring the crowds to calm down. She, Marquette, and Ronald had all been released on bail that morning. The meeting became a barrage of complaints about the police and government treatment of black citizens in recent history, immediately followed by the statement by Rena, a teenager, grabbed the microphone and proclaimed that rioters planned to move into the white sections of Los Angeles. William Parker. Local leaders requested the police dispatch more black police, but this was turned down by the Los Angeles Police Department Chief William H. Parker, who was prepared to call the National Guard. Word of the decision and subsequent news reports about the teenagers' tirades are credited with causing the riots to escalate. Overnight violence had engulfed the streets as mobs clashed with police, set buildings and cars on fire, and looted area stores. Crowds attacked firefighters and obstructed them from putting out fires. By the end of the third day, rioting covered a 50-square-mile section of Los Angeles, and 14,000 National Guard troops were dispatched to the city, erecting barricades. Further clashes included sniper fire at police and guardsmen, police raids on vehicles and apartments, and Molotov cocktails. Watts resembled a war zone, and the violence continued 3 more days. Police Commissioner Parker fanned flames by deriding rioters as monkeys in a zoo, and implying Muslims were infiltrating and agitating. I think he was referring to members of the Nation of Islam. In the early morning of the final days of the riots, as violence began to subside, police surrounded a mosque, resulting in gunfire on the rest of people inside. Police ransacked the building next door and tear-gassed sewers to prevent anyone from escaping. 2 fires broke out and destroyed the mosque. Charges were dropped against the arrestees, and the Muslim community accused police of using the riots as an excuse to destroy their place of worship. A lot like Tulsa. Most of the 34 dead were black citizens. 2 policemen and 1 firefighter among the casualties, and 26 deaths, mostly the results of Los Angeles Police Department or National Guard actions, which were deemed justifiable homicides. As always, a committee was set up to study the cause of the riot, after which several community improvements suggested were made to improve schools, employment, housing, healthcare, and relations with the police department. There was a follow-up, but a new era of DIY local activism blossomed in Watts, including former street gang members who joined with Black Panther Party members to rebuild and monitor police excesses. What caused the riots? The riot was an isolated event, with multiple urban riots across the country taking place since 1964 and 65 prior to the Watts explosion. In 1964, there was a 3-day riot in Rochester, New York, leaving 4 dead. In the New York city neighborhoods of Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant, a 6-day riot involving as many as 4,000 people following the shooting of a young black man. In Philadelphia, a 3-day riot following the arrest of a black couple who had gone to scuffle with police, and a 3-day riot in Chicago when a black woman attempted to shoplift alcohol was attacked by the store owner and crowds later gathered to protest. Some blame the Watts riots on outside agitators, but most understood it as a result of continuing dissatisfaction about living conditions and opportunities and long-standing tensions between police and residents. In 1961, the arrest of a black male in Griffith Park for riding a merry-go-round without a ticket resulted in crowds throwing rocks and bottles at the police. In 1962, the police raided a Nation of Islam mosque and killed an unarmed man, resulting in massive protests. Over the 2 years leading up to the riot, 65 black residents were shot by police, 27 of them in the back and 25 of them unarmed. During that period, there were 250 demonstrations against the living conditions there. Nationwide, the violence would not end. On August 12th, the day after tensions erupted in Watts, Chicago's troubled Garfield Park neighborhood erupted into 3 days of violence with the death of Desi Mae Williams in a fire truck ladder accident. The following year saw fire bombings, riots, and killings in the same city, and the Detroit riots began 2 years later, resulting in 43 deaths. The 1992 Los Angeles riots following the Rodney King beating trial of 4 police officers led to the deaths of 63 people, and a grim reminder that many issues of racism remain unsolved. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I'll leave this and some other sources in the description. If you'd like to support this channel, I'll leave my GoFundMe in the description as well. And I'll leave my Instagram there as well. Peace.